Now if your X20 F8 stopped working and you want to restore its suction and get it looking like this, nice and new again, stay tuned to Performance Reviews. We're going to show you how. Hey, greetings YouTube. Today I've got a Roidmi X20, which of course I have put through the ringer and back, and it's well, it's just not working as well as I wish it was. So we're going to go take it apart and see if a service doesn't do that. So stay with me and check out the links below. So the first thing I want to check out, yep, that's fine. We can move that tube over there. So there's our main body and our nozzle. So let's take a look at the nozzle. That part just comes right off. See what makes that tick. Make sure that that moves freely. Upon taking this apart, here's what I found. I found that this screw here is too torqued to really do anything with. I highly recommend that you leave this screw alone. Taking the screws further apart, this thing's pretty well clipped together. I suspect once this comes apart, it's not going to be pretty, so don't recommend that. I also don't see any reason to take this part off. Now the wheels are constructed of nice construction. You can see there's Teflon in there, and then a soft rubber on the outside with the metal shaft, so I do like that. You can get to the bearing if you need to simply by pulling the end cap off. The bearing's hermetically sealed, so one-time use sort of thing there. Going on to the main body, which just clips off like that. You can go wash that, vacuum that out. There's a pre-motor filter, which does seem to have gotten some pet hair and other stuff, so we'll clean that as well. Now, you can see that the motor is really far down there. It's like right here. So let's see what's under the cap and how the HEPA filter is doing. Just a number 5 opens that right up, and lo and behold, there's a HEPA filter in here. Now what's interesting about this is there's silicone. I don't know why there's a silicone exhaust flaps, but there are. Maybe that's what holds it in place. And you can see where maybe a little bit of dirt is leaking behind it. And yeah, a little bit of dirt has leaked out there. So that's not a great sign that we're seeing dirt leakage. Being a bagless vacuum, I don't expect this to be great for allergies, but that's something to note. Now they say the batteries are interchangeable, so I kind of want to see where they are or how they are. So I'm going to pull off a little bit of this. Normally this sort of thing I would never pull apart. Ooh. I like that. They put Loctite on the screws, so it shows attention to detail. Means those. Let's see what we got here. And there's no way I'm going to be able to get a regular screwdriver in there. Let's see what's inside. Now somebody said there were only 3 screws to get to this, and that was another vacuum collector. I kind of doubt that, but we're gonna see how that is to get to. Give it a little bit of a love tap, and lo and behold, the batteries are easy to get to. Not bad at all. You can see they have cells. So I guess one of the coolest things, I was looking at this battery and I realized it's kind of ingenious, because they're using the intake air, which is cold or ambient air at least, to cool the battery with the motor. So one of the problems with lithium-ion batteries is cooling, and they have solved that very simply by just using the motor to bring air through here. So I really think that that's pretty innovative. Now I would have liked this battery pack to be on the outside and be able to change that somewhere. But again, considering this is not a do your whole house sort of vacuum, I think that's perfectly acceptable. And the way they engineered this is really quite genius. Now I do have a concern with doing this, is will dust build up where it shouldn't eventually. Now going to the rest of this, curious just how far, what the rest of this looks like inside. Well, me being me, we're just going to start taking the rest of this apart and see how well that goes for us. And you know, if I break it, I guess it's under warranty. That's a question of a century. Let's see here. Don't want to catch that wire. Aha. There's a housing. Appears to be ABS. Wow, that little. There's quite a bit going on here. You can see the Bluetooth board. There's a lot of circuitry for a vacuum. Excuse the silence, I'm just kind of admiring it. I believe the circuit board holds the motor in, looking at this. I could be wrong, but let's find out. Well, that's what holds it, which the circuit board's held in place. I believe the motor will just, it's like a, oh, look at that. So that is what the motor looks like. We're able to see the motor is 28, oh, Cinderson. So we're able to see the motor. That's really, that's cool. Now there's a bit of dust in here, which tells me stuff is leaking past the filter. This is a brushless motor. Tell you what, the turbine design is a lot more primitive than what I thought it would be. Everything just looks really high quality. This mount particularly, Dyson doesn't do anything like this, but you can see that there's a motor mount that absorbs stuff. That's why it's so quiet for a cordless vacuum, at least. Alright, well, I've seen what I want to see. We're going to have to start putting this thing back together. First, let's blow it out with this compressed air. And then the ones that hold this orange cover I put together. I am going to clean this. Only seems right. So I put this back together. Alright. So the battery, you can see where the terminals line up. Right there. Let's see. The cover. That just goes right back on. The one screw with the Loctite in it. this guy back in. I like that the battery isn't accessible, but I do want it to be accessible. Like, I see where this could be nice for keeping the wrong people who would mess this out with these T8 screws, which a lot of people just don't have a T8 screwdriver at home. Probably my audience does, but a lot of people don't. Alright, that's all in there. Let's see if it turns on. Oh, it knows the bin is not attached. That's interesting. That's kind of a cool feature. It's not like the Dyson where you can just turn it on. So that all looks good. Now, as far as the status of the HEPA filter goes, I'm going to vacuum this out. Alright, that was pretty easy. Put that in there, just to be on the safe side. I think it goes down this way. Like so. I like that the user basically with a coin or a screwdriver can get to this HEPA filter. It's a lot easier than some of the other machines. It also keeps the user from washing this when they shouldn't. Now let's get back to the rest of this while we're talking about emptying this, because it doesn't actually hold a lot. Well, maybe it holds more than you think. It's kind of a bit of stuff. Again, I'm going to use the central vacuum. Now, according to the app, this is about 50% filter life, and I kind of believe it might be under that. We can see the filter itself starting to degrade with what look like these little hair things, and we can see stuff that just doesn't want to clean out. It's lodged in there. Let's take the Cyclone apart after I blew it out with compressed air, see how bad it is inside. Alright. Well, that's interesting. So, I think the misconception of this product is it is one Cyclone. And looking at the way that it intakes, you can see the multiple, it will focus here, different things in the shroud. So I guess it is multi-cyclonic in a way then. That's interesting enough. Actually, this looks like it breaks down even more. Yeah, I sure did mold something else in here. So yeah, those. Okay, this is a lot more clever than we thought it was when I first saw it. And maybe this will illustrate it right there and how those multiple little cyclones work. Yeah, that's cool. And then this shroud is like a sheet metal. It's pretty tough. Combined with the plastic shell. So I like that. Now all this has a terrible odor on it, as Cyclones seem to always acquire. Oh, Fuji. And I've emptied this after every use. So that's all going to come apart and wash. Now normally I throw this shit in the dishwasher, There's just not enough here really for a load in the dishwasher, so I'm just going to hand wash all this and let you know how that goes. Yeah, see that shroud? Again, nice sandwich construction there that they did that. We're going to wash everything and see how it turns out, which may or may not be a good idea. There, you can see those air shrouds in there. Pretty good. So that's kind of cool it has that. And they say you can wash this. You can see where the top layer of paper is already coming off this. We're going to find out whether or not we can really wash that. We're going to put all this back together now. Now I had the Cyclone parts hanging on this Chinese hanger, and if you don't know what this is, for some reason it's customary to hang your underwear on one of these kind of hangers over there in China. But I thought it was very good for parts drying as well, and this thing's kind of cool because it just folds up and then hangs out of the way. So that's how I got all that back together. Now we got the Cyclone here. We'll start putting it back together. Looks like there should be a reference point here. Maybe not. Maybe that's for something else. Oh, there it is. There's the reference point tab. Excellent. All right. I expect all this to be pretty straightforward on here. First, I say that. Some of the paint that's on the metal shroud or whatever coating this is scratched off a little bit in the time I've had it, so that's just something. Though since I washed this and there's bare metal exposed, this does appear to be stainless steel, or at least some sort of steel that's somewhat resistant to rusting, because I've got no rust, and I think that should have rusted. Let's put this, again, it's not the usual kind of machine I service, but wanted to see what it was made of and show you guys particularly. I think that's really important to show. So there you can see the multi-little Cyclone dealies. Somebody had contacted me saying they thought this did not have multi-cyclonic for some reason. So, and like a fool, I kind of took their word for it, but was like, no, it would have to, just judging by the fine stuff that was dumping out here. And I'm glad we investigated this and found that out. And I've got a bunch of little screws here. I mean, these are tiny. Let's put these back, set my drill clutch on its most sensitive setting. There we go. This is probably boring for you all, but what else can we do when we're assembling this little thing? We'd like to see the factory that makes these, or I wonder if these are hand assembled by people. So this now goes on there. You can see that there's a blank here for this. I don't see the average consumer needing to ever do what I just did, by the way. I want to just make that statement. I don't think it's necessary for the average person to have to break their Cyclone down like this. But mine did have a little bit of an odor, so I wanted to do that. And there's another collector who was interested in this machine, so yeah, my wife wants me to keep it, though. My wife, she doesn't like it, but she doesn't think I should give it away. So I was planning on giving this to another collector or a Patreon supporter or something when I was done with it. This thing does not want to. Alright. So everything snaps together very tightly. Maybe if there wasn't a 200-pound gorilla trying to put this thing together, this would work better. Just saying. Alright. We'll do that. Cyclonic's so effective, the screw just fell right down it. Check the torque on all this, since this is something I don't usually work on. Alright, so that's how you put together the Cyclone. Alright, I left this upstairs, but I want to point out some things about this filter real quick. See if it will focus. If you can see, there's like a ring in the middle. If you turn it at the right angle, where it's been pulling the suction up through there. There's also a little magnet right here. And what that magnet does is that communicates with the sensor up here that lets it know if the bin's in place. So that's a nice detail in here. Now this filter does seem to be charcoal embedded, but again, I need to rinse it because it was pretty stinky. So that just goes in there, and make sure this gasket's in place as well. That's important. So all that just goes in there like that. And there's one little piece that I didn't pull off, and that is the pre-motor filter right there. That's in case this filter breaks or you do something really stupid. And of course, all right, that's back together. Awesome. Nice and clean, ready to be used again. I'm going to talk a little bit about taking the power head apart. I started off thinking I was just going to take all these screws off and completely break down this power head. I think that's a bad idea for two reasons. One, this is snapped together in such a fashion, you could definitely break something very easily by doing that. Two, however this is torqued on here, this guy right here, I cannot get this apart. I actually shredded a bit trying to get it apart, so whatever is holding this together is not how it appears. There's no real reason to take it apart. Maybe some hair could get under it, but everything's really well sealed. So I'm not going to recommend that you take this apart any further than what you see. Now, I did wash all this stuff. It all washed pretty well. I took the bearing apart, washed it, and the end cap, and you can see that's just fine. That snaps in there, just like so. Again, I think they should have included a second one of these, or this part should have been attached somehow. There's no way that that's not going to be the most lost piece ever in vacuum history, next to the Royal Belt Lifter. Now, the fluffy brush roller didn't really wash that good. I don't want to really hit it with a wire wheel like I usually do. I feel like it's going to melt or something. And I accidentally dropped it off the counter and broke the end on it. So I want to say that this broken piece is user error on my part. I want to say that they do put a nice seal on these, and that will help hair from getting to the bearing. I didn't find actually any hair under there, only a little bit of dust, so that's good. Sealed bearings on these brush rollers are pretty good. So that's as far as I'm going to take the nozzle apart. As you can see, I have left my protective cover still on my nozzle. I don't see any reason to go further than that. Of course, you always want to clean up the paint scuffs. That's easy enough. Just go on over to my Patreon page if you haven't already. And I have a great tutorial on how and what to use to remove paint scuffs really easily as well. So that's as far as we're going to go with the nozzle. Well, thanks for watching. I hope this got your suction restored and your machine working properly if you did try this at home. And if you were some sort of vacuum tech watching this, I'd love to hear if you're seeing these come into your store. I haven't heard any accounts yet of anybody. So please click that subscribe button. Thumbs up always helps us. And if you didn't like this, comment below. Our comment section is always pretty lit. And have a wonderful day.